Well, this is the latest air rifle project. There is an auction company in the UK called Holt's, which I have been lucky enough to win several of their lots in recent auctions, and several of those are now those air rifles now reside in my collection. Quite often, a few weeks after an auction, they will have a sale of unsold lots, and this rather tired looking but old air rifle was in the sale of unsold lots, and I took pity on it because I thought it would make a great project gun, and it was being offered for what I thought was a very reasonable price, so here it is. So what is it? Well, for anyone in the airgun world, this is instantly pretty recognisable. This is a GEM pattern air rifle. Now, some people believe that GEM were the first commercially produced air rifles. Certainly they were first manufactured in 1880, which was obviously a long time ago, and they were manufactured for about 50 years, so that's up until early 1930s. So this is a pre-war air rifle, predates the Second World War, and it is, they're very, very basic, but I think quite interesting and quite nice looking air rifles. This one actually does work. I've cocked it and fired it, and there's, despite its great age, there's nothing wrong with the spring. Of course, the spring may have been changed, but obviously it's cosmetically pretty bad. We'll go down the length of it. So there's quite a few dings and dents in the stock. It is actually loose, so I'm going to have to take the butt plate off and see what's going on there. And I think as you can see here, we've got a little bit of silver still here. I think this was probably nickel plated. Many of these were, in fact, nickel plated. Come on up. And as you can probably tell from this, it's a break barrel spring powered air rifle. When you cock it, the trigger guard slides down that way and compresses the spring. So very, very simple, but very effective. It works fine, you know. But also, as you can see, it's very, very badly corroded. One of the things I like about the GEM pattern air rifles is that they generally have either a full or part octagonal barrel, and this one is octagonal right down to there, and then it is cylindrical from that point onwards. The front sight is in place, which is great because they quite often go missing. But I mean, basically, this just needs cosmetic work done on it. Cleaning up, sorting out the wooden stock. That I'll probably have to do a full sand that down and refinish it. But yeah, it's a nice looking little gun. Let's have a look at the other side. So there's the other side. I thought there might have been a split there, but I don't think there is. A bit of a ding there, but I'm sure this can all be sorted out. The stock, as you can see, is loose, and it's not tightened right up to the receiver part, so that's got to be sorted out. Yeah, I'm not sure of how much disassembly I can do on this because it's basically all riveted together. There is a screw there, but all of these are all rivets, so a very limited amount of disassembly you can do without actually knocking the rivets out. So there we go. Very nice GEM patterned air rifle. Unsure of its age, but it's certainly pre-war, so before 1939. And let's see if we can see what we can take apart on it before we actually start doing any work. Well, I got the butt plate off, which was what you might call a fight. And as you can see, the butt plate is very, very rusty. Probably hasn't been off in 100 years, and that's the example of what the screw looks like. The other one unfortunately sheared off when I was undoing it, so that's going to have to be attended to. But now that leaves us with another problem. I'll see if I can get the camera to look down the hole in the end of the stock. Well, you're going to be able to see this if I get the light in the right position. There we go. There is a large nut holding that on, and I of course don't have a socket to fit it. Hurrah! Well, I've got the little gem air rifle apart, thanks to some forum posts which explained exactly how this thing comes apart. It's quite an interesting construction. Basically, this shaft here screws onto this plate. That then goes into the butt, and there is a wood screw that holds that plate in place, and that nut, this nut washer, goes on the threaded part of that rod up inside the stock. The spring then goes into the piston, which is in there, and then basically, let's close in on this. That then goes up into the spring, and this thread screws into the receiver here. It is under a little bit of tension, but not a huge amount. And then once this has been screwed into here and it's in the right position, then this keeper screw goes through there, screws into the other side and clamps the whole lot tight. And that is how it all comes apart. I don't need to take it apart any further, and anyway, if I did, I'd have to remove rivets to do it. But I've basically got it apart as far as I need to get it apart, and now it's time to do the clean-up process, which is going to be initially a lot of wire wheel work on all the metal work, and obviously some sanding down on the woodwork. Well, all of the parts, all the metal parts cleaned up okay. I've still got to start work on the wooden stock, but the few parts that there are all cleaned up nicely. So I've got to decide what to do next. I think what I'm going to do is have a go at bluing it, because I'm more than ever convinced it would originally have been nickel plated. But I think what I'll do is I will go through my normal procedure for bluing it, and we'll see how it comes out. Well, the bluing worked out really well. You've seen me do this before. I've actually taken you through the whole process of various other air rifles that I've attempted to restore. Use the Birchwood and Casey Super Blue, which I'm thoroughly impressed with. It does a really good job. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I have to spend my own money on that, but it does a really good job. So the metal work is pretty much all finished now. So the next job is to move on to the wooden stock. Several things to do on here. One of them, we've got to extract the broken off screw, which is in this hole here. I'll use a diamond hole saw for that. And then we've got to basically refurbish it. So the first thing I'm going to do in that regard is get a wet rag and use an ordinary household iron, and we'll see if we can get some of these little tiny dents and nicks out of it. So this is a technique that I first tried on the Finework Bell 300S stock, and it worked really well. It doesn't do an awful lot to the really deep dents, but there's lots of little indentations, almost like thumbnail presses and dents and dings. You probably can't see them that well, to be honest with you, on camera. But what we've got is a very damp old flannel here, which has been soaked in water, and a conventional iron, and then we just hold it on and let it do its magic. I think you get the idea. And this can be quite effective, particularly, as I said, on the small dents. Yeah, it's already having an effect. Like I said, you probably won't be able to see it that well on the camera, but it does have an effect. Well, I'm going to keep going with this, and I'll bring you back when we're done. Well, that's the first stage over with. Now, the really large dings and dents, it's not going to really do much to. But the smaller ones, it can actually bring them out. And I found on the FWB 300S stock that I did, it works quite well. It does have an effect, and it doesn't take long, and it's well worth the effort of doing it before we move on to the next stage, which is sanding it down. So that's what we're going to do next.